This is your other 6-mark question. So this is assessing your AO1 and your AO2 skills. You know this because it says using figure 6 and your own knowledge. You must answer the question. And again, it's a good idea to annotate the question as well as the resource. So this is asking you to assess the relative importance of factors leading to the development of this landform. So relative importance, that means what is the most important factor that has led to the development of this landform. The majority of you identified that this landform is a spit. So now you want to assess which factor is the most important in the development of a spit. You must use the figure in your answer. If you have just talked about the development of a spit, then you are limited to level 1, which would be 1 to 3 marks. In order to get 4 to 6 marks, you must use this figure in your answer. You need to look at the picture and don't forget the writing as well. You must read that too. So to answer this question, a good start is to use the question in your answer. So you could start it with one important factor in the development of this landform is, and then start to identify the factors, the important factors. Again, most of you have identified that longshore drift would be an important factor in the development of this landform. So you can talk about longshore drift. You could give an explanation of longshore drift, and this would give you your own knowledge marks, so your AO1 marks. For these questions, though, you are only given 2 marks for AO1. So that means you do need to be answering the question and using the figure for the other 4 marks, your AO2 marks, which are applying your knowledge. So here, if you explain longshore drift, so you say one important factor in the development of this landform is longshore drift, you then go on to explain what longshore drift is, that explanation would get you an AO1 mark. So you could say that this is the movement of the sediment along the coast. You then need to use the figure in your answer. So here, the waves would be hitting the coast at an angle and then transporting sediment in a southerly direction. You need to use your compass direction here. So some of you have then gone on to talk about the prevailing winds being an important factor, which they will be. However, here, the prevailing winds are not going to be southwesterly because we have a direction here which is northerly, and we know that this is on the east coast of the UK. So the prevailing winds would actually be northwesterly. So you could talk about the northwesterly prevailing winds hitting the coast at an angle and then transporting the sediment along the coast in a southerly direction. You are therefore using the figure in your answer. Another important factor could be a change in direction of the coastline. For example, an estuary, and you have here that this is the Humber estuary. So if you bring that into your answer, you're showing that you're using the figures. You also need a supply of sediment. So another important factor is the supply of sediment. So to bring the figure into your answer here, you could talk about this boulder clay, which is unconsolidated material. So you could say that the supply of sediment is another important factor. Here you have boulder clay, an unconsolidated material, which can be easily eroded by the action of the waves. If you then went on to explain hydraulic action and how the waves are wearing away the rock, that would get you an AO1 mark. But the fact that you have identified that it's boulder clay, which is unconsolidated material, you are then getting AO2 marks for using the figure and identifying that this is another important factor. Then say that this will then be transported and deposited on the spit. At the end, you must say what the most important factor is. So at the end, you could make a comment or a statement. Overall, the most important factor is, and then whichever one